Hello everybody and welcome back. My name is Kari and today I am doing my Elizabeth video. I would say historical events, but I decided to do a different historical event for September, except that I also can't just let Elizabeth's birthday go unmentioned. So instead, in September, I'm doing two historical figures videos, basically, one of which is clearly Elizabeth I's birthday. Elizabeth I was born on September 7th, 1533 to Henry VIII and his second wife Anne Boleyn, who he later beheaded, and there's a whole mess behind that, but that's not the point. The books I want to show you today are all nonfiction because there's about less than half of them that I've read and the other half that I want to read soonish because I'm on a big Elizabeth kick. Let's get started. So the first one is The Life of Elizabeth I by Alison Weir. This one covers the entirety of Elizabeth's reign from 1558 to 1603 when she died and the throne went to her cousin James VI of Scotland, who became James I of England. This book does a phenomenal job of providing a very broad overview of Elizabeth's reign. As I've mentioned in my August wrap-up, which I will leave linked down below, apologies for the length of that, this book doesn't necessarily cover all of the anecdotes, such as her meeting with Grace O'Malley, but it does cover all of the big points, such as her relationship with Robert Dudley, Earl of Leicester, her relationship with the Cecil family, who are her advisors, her relationship with Mary Queen of Scots, etc. So overall, I do think this book does a phenomenal job, and it's incredibly easy to read. Next up is How to Be a Tudor by Ruth Goodman. This book is not so much about Elizabeth, but more just about how to live as a middle class or peasant during the Tudor times. This provides a fantastic day-to-day living description, and many of the things that were mentioned in this book, which I have also read, came up actually in the life of Elizabeth I, such as how the table is set, which is an incredibly complicated ritual, by the way. So I loved this book and thought it was a fantastic place setting, if you'll pardon the pun, for how to live in the Tudors and to understand more of the books about Elizabeth specifically. And the last book in this pile that I've read is The Sultan and the Queen by Jerry Broughton. This book talks about Elizabeth I and her relationship with the Middle East and the Islamic states at the time. This is something I knew absolutely nothing about when I read it, and I really enjoyed learning all about it. This book was also really easy to read and grasp the concepts of, and I loved how it explained all of it with contemporary documents of the time. For example, Shakespeare in Othello, or I think it was The Merchant of Venice as well. They all have references to these darker skinned people that the Brits were not used to seeing at the time, and I think it's fascinating. And then, because as you know by now, I have a serious obsession with this beautiful woman, I have many nonfiction books that I have not read yet. So let's get into those. The first one is Elizabeth's Spy Master by Robert Hutchinson. This one is about Sir Francis Walsingham, who was, as the title suggests, Elizabeth's spy master. He gave his health to run her spy network, and it was with his help, and definitely some maybe light entrapment in there, that Mary Queen of Scots was finally able to be put away and more specifically executed for her plotting, namely the Babington plot, which was the last one that she ever tried, but it was also sort of the third main plot that she attempted during her 18 to 20 years of imprisonment by Elizabeth. This talks about Walsingham and his life and how he came to prominence in Elizabeth's time, etc. I also have The Last Armada by Des Ekin. This obviously talks about the Spanish attempt to invade England in 1588 when the Spanish Armada sailed to England, managed to make it off the coast, and then was burnt and sent around the coast of Ireland, and they didn't try that again. I absolutely love that story. It's just amazing, especially considering that England didn't have a navy at the time and that Spain was the predominant military power, being beaten by these people who didn't know what a bow from a stern was, and I love it, so I'm really excited to get further into this one. Next I have Elizabeth the Later Years by John Guy. This talks about Elizabeth, obviously, in her later years, which is a very interesting topic because she cultivated this idea and this image of being a perfect young virgin queen all of her life. The virgin is still up for debate. Personally, I think she was smart enough and never alone enough to actually have had a sexual relationship, but my opinion, I'm not a historian. At any rate, this talks about her later years when she was starting to show her age. She lived to about 70, and she still had to keep up the myth. Also, I assume that there are political accomplishments in this because that did not stop just because she turned 40. Next up, I have Elizabeth and Leicester by Sarah Gristwood. This is all about Elizabeth's biggest romantic relationship, also just her friendship. Elizabeth and Leicester have been friends since they were kids. The Earl of Leicester is Robert Dudley, and Dudley's father was one of Elizabeth's brother Edward's advisors during Edward's very short reign, and then Dudley, the father Dudley, tried to overthrow Elizabeth's sister Mary, so Mary had him beheaded. Leicester had a very rough couple of years for a while, but then Elizabeth came to the throne and all was well and good except for that whole bit about allegedly killing his wife so he could marry Elizabeth. Again, whole mess, but I'm thrilled to get into the nitty-gritty of that. And then we have Elizabeth and Her Inner Circle by Susan Doran. This is about Elizabeth and her advisors. I assume there's going to be a lot about her marriage in this because they were all men and they all wanted her to marry and provide an heir for the kingdom because, you know, that's what women do. But Elizabeth just kind of kept putting them off. She was very, very good at that. And I'm excited to see what the different dynamics are, especially since there was always some sort of rivalry during her reign between two or more factions in her Privy Council. Then we have another huge aspect of Elizabeth's life, which is Elizabeth and Mary, Cousins, Rivals, Queens by Jane Dunn. If the title doesn't give it away, as most nonfiction titles do, this is about Elizabeth and Mary. They have a huge rivalry going on. They both are hung up on whether they are more beautiful, more intelligent, more talented than their cousin. And ultimately it turns out Elizabeth is more intelligent and apparently more talented at court intrigue than Mary is. I'm very excited to read this and hopefully be again vindicated on my opinion of Mary. I don't understand her at all, but that's okay. And then the last book is Game of Queens, again by Sarah Gristwood. This one is more so just about female monarchs in the 16th and 17th centuries, which obviously includes Elizabeth I, Catherine of Medici, and Mary Queen of Scots. I am clearly very excited to read this book because, well, let's be honest. 1, Elizabeth, 2, Queens. Why would I not be excited about this? Also, the cover is a portion of Elizabeth's Armada portrait, which was painted after the defeat of the Spanish Armada in 1588, which I just think is great. Those are all of the non-fiction books I have on Elizabeth, and by on Elizabeth I mean specifically regarding Elizabeth or some aspect of her life. I have many other books that have to do with the Plantagenets or the Tudors or royalty in general during the same time, but that would take years to get through, so we're gonna focus on these. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a big thumbs up down below. Hit the subscribe button. My Goodreads will be linked in the description if you want to check it out. Until my next video. Bye.